Dr. Marcus Drymon. I'm a postdoctoral researcher at the Dolphin Island Sea Lab in Alabama.
Okay, and you specialize in sharks, or you're the shark guy?
I'm a fisheries ecologist, but what I have the most experience with is sharks. I've worked with sharks in some way for about the past 15 years.
Okay, and can you explain why sharks are so important to the ecosystem and how they help maintain the balance in the ocean?
Absolutely. Shark studies in general have kind of migrated over the past decade or even longer from studies that just looked at a single species and described traits of that single species to how sharks as a group help to regulate healthy ecosystems. And what we're learning, and we're just starting to scratch the surface of this, is the crucial role that sharks play in maintaining a healthy ocean and a healthy ecosystem. We can see examples from systems where shark numbers are depressed. We can see that the system isn't in a virgin state, and that has consequences for things that we like to eat, things like oysters and other fish. And so I guess the take-home message is that an ocean food web is a complex system, and sharks play very integral but often complicated roles in maintaining that system.
Okay, and can you speak on how like Hollywood and the movies have kind of cast him in the light as a villain, and it's kind of hurt the way a lot of uninformed people look at a shark?
Sure, absolutely. Starting even with the movie Jaws, sharks have had the unfortunate they've been played in a bad light. They've been cast as a villain often, and it's easy to see why. They're a scary-looking fish, and they're truly an amazing predator. They're a very predatory fish. But what we're learning is that, and what we've known for decades now, is that sharks don't target people to eat them. Sharks aren't malicious in that way in any respect. Often attacks or bites are simply a case of mistaken identity. But what we've seen over the past couple decades is that the movies have realized that they've cast sharks in this bad respect, like Jaws, and they've made an effort to focus away from that. So we're getting a lot of interesting films and a lot of interesting documentaries that show really the true nature of sharks and how important they are to our healthy oceans.
Okay. And what is it about sharks that draws you to specialize in them?
I mean, just personally, I've been fascinated with sharks since I was a little kid, much like most little kids. I spent a lot of my young childhood trying to catch a shark, just so I could see what it looked like, touch it, look at it up close, and that's just stayed with me as I've gone through my adulthood, and I have the fortune to be able to study something that I've grown up being absolutely fascinated with. So it's a true blessing in that respect.
Okay. As a shark lover, is it kind of a bittersweet experience when a fisherman brings one in?
Absolutely. I mean, I got into this field because I'm passionate about sharks, and I love studying sharks, and that's live sharks. But what I've realized as a scientist, and this applies to all scientists who study creatures that they love, is that to really truly understand them, sometimes we need to sacrifice a few of them in order to measure things that you simply can't measure when the shark's alive.
All right, and what are the kind of things we're hoping to learn this weekend from the sharks that are coming in?
Well, as you mentioned, since the shark's dead, we're making absolute use of every single part on the shark. We're taking tissue samples, things like liver, muscle tissue. We're taking the entire stomach so we can see what the shark's been eating and how that affects its ecology. We're taking the vertebra, which again is something that you can't get from a live shark. But we're taking the vertebra so that we can see how old they are. We're measuring all the reproductive characteristics of these sharks. It's important to know how old and how big they are when they reach maturity, because we want as much of the mature population to be able to contribute to the future generations as possible. We are also taking fin clips to do genetic analysis. So if you look at all those different parts, we use absolutely every piece on these sharks for science.